Well, everyone else is doing it, so I'm gonna do it too. Hi, welcome, come on in. My name is Aoife, and today I am going to film my take on the mid-year book freakout tag. I know that this is one of the most common and most popular booktube videos around this time, and I also know that everyone and their mother is doing it, but it's one of my favorite tags to think about, and I cannot wait to share my answers with you. So let's get straight into it. The first question is, what is your favorite book of 2021 so far? This one is kind of a surprising one because I didn't expect to love it as much as I did, but it is Circle of Friends by Maeve Binchy. I read this back in March, I think, as part of the Irish Readathon, and I genuinely fell so hard in love with it. It's the story of Benny and Eve, who have known each other since they were about 10 or so, and it kind of follows them throughout their childhood and as they are a little bit older and Benny is going off to university. And Eve feels a little bit left behind, but she goes up to visit Benny one day and there is an accident involving both of them that kind of brings the two much closer together. That one was the first, and as of right now, only Maeve Binchy book that I've read so far, but I absolutely adored it. And I cannot wait to kind of look back over Maeve Binchy's back catalogue. I'm just a little bit pissed off that it took me so long to get here. The next question is, what has your favourite sequel for the first half of the year? I haven't read a whole lot of sequels, but I think the favourite I've had out of all of the ones that I have read is Majesty, the sequel to American Royals by Catherine McGee. I didn't love some parts of it. There are a lot of the relationships that have been established in the first book that don't continue on in the second book, or that have completely changed by the time you get to the second book. I really loved seeing how Beatrice adapts to her role as queen, as she's only a young person herself. She's the first ever queen regnant in America, and also how she's dealing with the death of her father. There is so much drama in that book, and I genuinely really enjoyed it. Is there a new release that you haven't read yet but that you're really excited to get to? Yes, several. One that kind of screams out at the top of my head right now, though, is The Intimacy Experiment by Rosie Danan. I read The Roommate, which was Rosie's first book. I think I read it around February or so, and I genuinely loved it. It had a lot of stuff that I was looking for in a book, and it also had some really great steamy scenes throughout it. There's a specific scene that is still very much burned into my memory, and I cannot wait to see what happens with Naomi and Ethan in this next book coming up. What is your most anticipated release for the second half of the year? There are a couple of books that I'm looking out for, but the one that I genuinely can't wait to get my hands on is On a Night Like This by Lindsay Kelk. Lindsay Kelk is my auto-buy author. I buy and read every single book that she has ever written so far. I don't know a whole lot about what On a Night Like This is about. I'd like to kind of go into it a little bit blind and figure out what happens as I get to it. But given how much I've loved Lindsay's work in the past, there's absolutely no reason why I won't love this one too. What's been your biggest disappointment so far in 2021? Unfortunately, I didn't really get on very well with Josh and Hazel's Guide to Not Dating by Christina Lauren. This was the third of Christina Lauren's books that I've read so far, and I think I've been on a kind of downward slope with them because I really enjoyed The Unhoneymooners. I thought In the Holidays was fine. And Josh and Hazel's Guide to Not Dating was also fine until we got to the ending. The ending really just kind of flipped the whole book 180. It didn't feel realistic for Josh or Hazel especially. And it didn't feel like it was the ending that I wanted for either of these characters to have. If you have read the book, you'll kind of know what the ending that I'm talking about is. But I genuinely felt like it was so completely out of field to what I was expecting that I think it took the book even down from a 4-star to a 3-star rating. What has been your biggest surprise so far in 2021? I picked up The Summer Job by Lizzie Dent in April or so. And I went into it with very little expectations. I had read the blurb, so I knew that it was about a girl called Birdie who goes up to a hotel in Scotland and kind of impersonates her best friend Heather, who is a world-class sommelier. I didn't go into it with a whole lot more knowledge about it. I just knew that that was the basics of the book. Let's get into what the rest of it is about. But I absolutely adored that book. If you want something that's going to take you to the Scottish Highlands, if you want a book that's full of romance, that's full of excitement, that's got really great descriptions about food and about wine, so if you're a foodie, you will really enjoy the descriptions in this book. But also Lizzie is just such a fantastic and really humorous author. I genuinely can't wait to see what she does next. And so to follow on, the next question is, what is a favourite new to you or new debut author? And I have to give the snaps to Lizzie Dent here. I absolutely fell in love with The Summer Job. I cannot wait to see where she comes next, and I am absolutely going to be on the lookout for a copy of it here. I think she's going to be one of my favourite new discoveries this year. Who is your favourite fictional crush from this year? I read quite a lot of romance, so you would think that there would be quite a lot of contenders for this one. Actually, it just came down to one person, and that was Josh from The Roommate by Rosie Danan. There's a lot about him that I like looking for in people anyway, but something that I really appreciated of him was that he never rushed Clara when she was a lot less sexually experienced than he was. He was always very gentle with her, he was always very patient with her, and you knew that there was a kind of a power balance for them in the bedroom, but you never focused on it, and it was never made such a big deal. I genuinely also loved how he was outside of the bedroom with her and how much of a good friend he was to Naomi. I genuinely wish that he is in the next book because I loved seeing him. The next question is, who is your favourite character from your reading in the first half of the year? I think I'm going to go with Hazel from Josh and Hazel's Guide to Not Dating by Christina Lauren. As much as I didn't love every aspect of the book and especially didn't love the ending, I really enjoyed reading about Hazel in the earlier stages of the book. I really liked reading about her job as a teacher. I loved her personality. It felt like Hazel and I were slightly kind of similar people. Genuinely, I just really enjoyed how she was portrayed on the page. I would love to see how she is on the screen. I'd love to see kind of an adaptation of Josh and Hazel's Guide to Not Dating so that I can see what she's like in a visual sense. I'm going to have to skip question 10, which is a book that made you cry, mainly because none of the books that I have read this year have actually made me cry. I'm not a very quick to cry person when it comes to reading. I will cry at things like movies or TV shows, but for some reason books just don't kind of bring out that emotion in me. What's a book that has made you happy? For this one, I'm going to go with Olive by Emma Gannon. And the reason that I'm going to pick this one is because it was so great to see somebody like me portrayed in a book. Somebody who has gotten to the age of their late 20s, early 30s, and doesn't think that they want children, is pretty sure that they don't want children, has never really had that kind of maternal instinct or anything like that. I really enjoyed the kind of snippets from, I am assuming, real life people that Emma may have talked to about why they didn't feel like motherhood was a calling for them, or their experiences with being child-free by choice. Seeing a person like that in a fiction book just made it a little bit more relatable and a little bit more real for me. What is the most beautiful book that you have bought so far this year? I don't think that there was any other contender for this than Hamnet. I bought an e-copy of this really at the start of the year, and I just fell in love with the cover. I haven't delved in yet to see if the inside of it is just as good, but if it is, I know so many people who have loved it that I'm sure I'm onto a winner here. The final question is, what are some books that you are looking forward to getting through to the end of this year? Top two on the list for me are the final two books in the Brown Sister trilogy. So you've got Take a Hint, Dani Brown, and Act Your Age, Eve Brown. So many people that I know have read these. So many people that I know have loved them. And what makes it even better is that a lot of people that I know that have read and loved them don't necessarily read romance every time, don't always go for romance books. So when you see somebody to whom this isn't a very familiar genre and they pick it up and they still love it and they are obsessed with these books just as much as I know I'm going to be, that is always a really good sign. That was my take on the mid-year book freakout tag. Have you taken this tag already? Please leave it in the comments below because I would love to check it out. Don't forget to like and subscribe because I have new videos up every week. Now, get on out of here.